Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us on Velayat News. I'm Abroo Sabzwari, and now a look at the top headlines for today. United States plans to meet Taliban later this week to seek peace in Afghanistan. The New York Civil Liberties Union has filed a lawsuit against the NYPD on surveillance of Muslims. NSA Director Keith Alexander defends U.S. surveillance, stating it has blocked more than 50 terror plots around the world. In Iraq, at least 31 people have been killed in 2 coordinated bomb attacks inside and near a Shia mosque. Brazil enters its second week of mass protests across the country with praise from the Brazilian president. In Pakistan, at least 28 people have been killed from a suicide attack in the Mardan district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In Karachi, Shia target attacks continue as 2 Shia brothers and their friends survived a violent Taliban gunfire attack. And now the news in detail. The United States will meet the Taliban this week for talks aimed at achieving peace in Afghanistan, where U.S.-led forces and the insurgents have fought a bloody and costly war for the past 12 years. The Taliban opened an office in Doha, the Qatari capital, on Tuesday to help restart talks and said it wanted a political solution that would bring about a just government and end the foreign occupation.
Today, we spent some time discussing the transition in Afghanistan, where there have been some important developments. Afghan forces are now in the lead in Afghanistan, fulfilling the milestone that we agreed to at the NATO summit in Chicago. We also discussed Qatar's announcement that an office is opening in Doha for the purposes of negotiations between Afghans, so that we have a parallel political track that matches up with the transition that's taking place militarily in Afghanistan and the elections that will be coming up next year. Both President Hollande and I agree that an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process is the best way to end the violence and to ensure lasting stability in Afghanistan and the region. And so this is an important first step towards reconciliation. Although it's a very early step, we anticipate there will be a lot of bumps in the road, but the fact that the parties have an opportunity to talk and discuss Afghanistan's future, I think is very important. The one thing that we do believe is that any insurgent group, including the Taliban, is going to need to accept an Afghan constitution that renounces ties with al-Qaeda, ends violence, and is committed to protection of women and minorities in the country. And over the last several months, I've discussed this issue frequently with President Karzai and also the Emir of Qatar. So I want to publicly commend President Karzai for taking this courageous step and his determination to end the conflict and build a future of security and peace and prosperity for the Afghan people. And I know that President Hollande shares my view on this. We're going to continue to support these efforts in partnership with the Afghan government. I want to repeat, we don't anticipate this process will be easy or quick, but we must pursue it in parallel with our military approach, and we, in the meantime, remain fully committed to our military efforts to defeat al-Qaeda and to support the Afghan National Security Forces.
A senior U.S. official said the talks will start in Doha on Thursday, but President Barack Obama cautioned against expectations of quick progress, saying the peace progress would not be quick or easy. U.S. officials said the process could take many years and be subject to reversals, adding that they hope the meeting will open the way for the first ever official peace talks. News of the planned talks comes as the United States and its allies in NATO seek to meet a deadline of December 2014 for an end to foreign combat operations in Afghanistan. A senior Afghan official said the Taliban was now willing to consider peace talks with the government, having held secret discussions with government representatives. Taliban representative Muhammad Naeem told a news briefing that the group wanted good relations with all of the world's countries. The New York Civil Liberties Union has filed a lawsuit against the New York Police Department over its surveillance of Muslim communities, accusing the NYPD of trampling on religious freedoms and constitutional guarantees of equality. The surveillance by the NYPD's Intelligence Division has extended beyond New York City's 5 regions into neighboring New Jersey and other nearby states. The police department says that surveillance of Muslims is legal under an earlier federal court order. The lawsuit is the latest skirmish in an ongoing battle between the NYPD and civil liberties advocates over the department's aggressive tactics, including its stop and frisk practices, which are the subject of a separate federal lawsuit. The lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York seeks to put an end to the NYPD's surveillance of Muslims, the destruction of all records on individuals created as a result of the program, and the appointment of an independent monitor to oversee the department. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of Muslim New Yorkers, including Asad Dandia, a college student from Brooklyn, who helped found a local Muslim charitable group that he said was infiltrated by an NYPD informant. NYPD chief spokesperson Paul Brown said on Tuesday that all the department's counter-terror tactics were lawful and would continue. The head of the National Security Agency said more than 50 potential terrorist plots across the globe were thwarted thanks to the controversial surveillance programs recently exposed by former contractor Edward Snowden. NSA Chief General Keith Alexander took center stage on Tuesday when he answered questions on Capitol Hill alongside high-ranking members of the FBI and the National Director of Intelligence Office.
Gathered from these programs provided the U.S. government with critical leads to help prevent over 50 potential terrorist events in more than 20 countries around the world. FAA 702 contributed in over 90% of these cases. At least 10 of these events included homeland-based threats, and the vast majority, business records FISA reporting, contributed as well. I would also point out that it is a great partnership with the Department of Homeland Security and those with a domestic nexus. But the real lead for domestic events is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It has been our honor and privilege to work with Director Mueller and Deputy Director Joyce, so I'll turn it now over to Sean.
Some of the most senior intelligence and law enforcement officials in the United States strongly defended the NSA's broad surveillance efforts, stating that they had disrupted more than 50 terror plots around the world. General Keith Alexander stated that the programs were critical to the ability of the intelligence community to protect the U.S. During the hearing, members of Congress criticized the source of the leaks, Edward Snowden, who remains free in Hong Kong. Most of those prevention efforts, Alexander said, came from the NSA's monitoring of foreigners' internet communications under a program known as PRISM. He conceded that only 10 related to domestic terror plots. In Iraq, 2 blasts inside and near a Shia mosque has claimed 31 lives. According to Tuesday's reports, a bomber detonated his charge at a checkpoint located around 100 meters from the mosque in the Al-Qahira district of northern Baghdad. A second bomber blew himself up inside the building minutes after the first explosion. Furat Faleh, an Iraqi police officer near the incident scene, said the bomber inside the mosque detonated himself among the worshippers who were gathering after the call to prayer. No group has claimed responsibility for the deadly attacks so far. On Monday, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's special representative for Iraq, Martin Kobler, called on the Iraqi leaders to sit together to address the country's problems. In a statement, Kobler said nothing can justify such despicable and heinous crimes targeting innocent people going about their daily business. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has said that militant groups and the remnants of the former Ba'athist regime are responsible for the latest wave of violence. At least 28 people, including a provincial lawmaker of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI, were killed Tuesday when a suicide bomber detonated his explosives during the funeral procession in Mardan district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. At least 57 other people were also injured in the blast. KP Information and Health Minister Shaukat Yousafzai confirmed that Imran Khan Mohammad, a PTI provincial lawmaker, was killed in the blast. Imran Mohammad was a worker for the Awami National Party, the former ruling party in the province, before he parted ways to contest the May 11th polls as an independent candidate. He later joined the PTI after winning the PK27 seat. The provincial lawmaker was attending the funeral in Shergar, located 20 kilometers from Mardan town, of Haji Abdullah, the owner of a local patrol station, who was shot dead by unknown gunmen the previous day. Worshippers were offering funeral prayers when the loud explosion ripped through the procession. DIG Jafar Khan confirmed that the explosion was a suicide attack. Former MNA and central leader of Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam Fazl Maulana Muhammad Qasim was leading the funeral prayers but survived the attack. No militant group has yet claimed responsibility for the blast. Mohammad is the second PTI lawmaker to be killed this month in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, where the party leads the ruling coalition government. Brazil has entered a second week of mass protests, with hundreds of thousands turning out in Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Belo Horizonte, Brasilia, and elsewhere. Vast demonstrations, in some cases of more than 200,000 people, swept through at least a dozen major cities on Monday night, with protesters calling for better public services and an end to corruption. Protesters in Rio de Janeiro burned cars and looted buildings as police attempted to disperse them with tear gas and rubber bullets. The rallies, which come during the Confederation Cup football tournament, are some of the biggest ever seen in the country. Although police in some regions cracked down hard, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff praised the marchers. In a televised speech on Tuesday, President Rousseff said Brazil woke up stronger today. She praised the demonstrators, saying the size of yesterday's demonstrations shows the energy of our democracy, the strength of the voice of the streets, and the civility of our population. Unrest across the country has injured at least 100 and resulted in over 250 arrests.
Sabemos, governo e sociedade,
the government and society knows that all violence is destructive. Sadly, it only generates violence. We cannot accept this. However, this does not detract from the peaceful spirit of those who were out on the streets to demand their democratic rights. These people must be heard. This was apparent. This transcends the mechanisms of the traditional political parties, class, and the press.
In response to the protests, several municipalities in Brazil have announced plans to lower public transportation fares. In an address from the presidential palace on Tuesday, President Rousseff expressed sympathy with the demonstrators, stating that their voices need to be heard. She added that the government is listening to the voices for change and is committed to social transformation. In Karachi, Pakistan, 2 Shia brothers and their friend have been injured as a result of a Spy Sahaba terrorist attack in Gulshan-e-Iqbal on Tuesday. According to the Shia News correspondent, armed militant Spy Sahaba terrorists opened fire on a welding shop of a Shia shopkeeper situated at Al-Hamra Plaza, Gulshan-e-Iqbal, Block 6. The 2 brothers, John Muhammad and Mir Hashim Kamal, owners of the shop, and their friend Dawood were injured in the firing. While John Muhammad and Mir Hashim Kamal are out of danger, their friend Dawood remains in critical condition. The target killing and genocide of Shia Muslims has been witnessed in Karachi from the last 3 decades with the backing of state agencies and support of political parties. Hundreds of Shia doctors, engineers, bureaucrats, philanthropists, educationists, and businessmen have been martyred in these target killings, and the government has continued to fail in making a single arrest of the terrorists at large. That brings us to the end of our bulletin today. If you'd like to contribute your community's news, you may email news@VelayatTV.org. You can also catch up on the latest headlines and more by logging onto our website, VelayatTV.org, or follow us on our YouTube and Facebook pages of Velayat TV USA. Many thanks for joining us today. Till next time, I'm Abroo Sabzwari.